Hi guys, I'm John Carrick, author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. Today we've got 100 Bullets 50, which actually tells the beginning story, although it's in flashback. And we have World Fantasy Tarot number 7, the Chariot, the Centaur. You know, when Rome got to England, the Celts were using chariots, and Rome wasn't, which is a pretty interesting fact if you didn't know it. And one of the things that they used to do to block invading armies was to cut down trees, big old pine trees, and then drag them tip first into the brush to create a barricade until all the trees were stuck in the brush and utterly impassable. That's genius. We're going to see that kind of shit again if we get the race war I want. Anyhow, today we're going to save the conflicted card for the end and do the comic book first. So here we go, 100 Bullets 50. You don't know what you don't know. This starts off with a new character. Well, we don't know that he's a new character until it gets going. But this guy here, the well-dressed white man, is listening to a conversation between a gang of thieves. This fella's name is Bass, her name is Sheila. And they apparently just robbed a diamond exchange. But Bass is obsessed with this bottle of beer, telling everyone it's a slave ship, because that's what his mind's about. That's where he's victimized. That's where he's a bitch-made faggot, like most blacks are. And he's telling everyone that this bottle of beer is made by the KKK. The Klan owns it. And they've got everyone under their thumb. Which is, you know, whatever. Victor tells them that it's actually the Boston Tea Party. I don't recognize this beer. I don't drink regularly. So this guy's name is Victor. But before we get to that, they get into this whole bit where Sheila tells him that Elvis isn't dead, that he faked his death, because there's a whole lot of money in being dead, and he sold more records after he died, and he was sick of it, and blah, blah, blah. And of course, Bass doesn't like that, because that makes a white man look clever. So he says that no, he died with in his own vomit, blowing, you know, like having volcanic gastral indigestion. What do they call that? Incontinence. There is, I mean, look, you can say that I'm reading race into it, but it's obviously part of what's going on. He's convinced the Klan still runs shit. She's convinced Elvis is still alive. And Victor has his own conspiracy theory. He says that the two things that make a conspiracy most likely are money and war. Or both. And so he tells them the story about Roanoke Island. He tells them about the trust. Now, there was a trust before this trust. He says this is the first time it happened in history. Generally, the first trust is considered to be the first triumvirate. Cassius Longinus, who was the first landlord in Rome. He was the man who invented rent. He owned buildings and rented them out. He was the richest man in Rome. And he joined forces with Caesar and Pompey. Pompey was very young, at a very young age, a Roman general, and he successfully cleansed the Mediterranean of pirates. And that made him massively famous because piracy was a huge problem. And Caesar, at that age, was, well, probably in his 30s at this point, he was a bit of a hero himself. He crucified a gang of pirates. He had saved a general's life in battle at 18. But more importantly, after Marius and Sulla had a Cinna, and after Marius and Cinna did a whole bunch of bloodletting in Rome, Sulla came back and outlawed them and all their progeny, which included Caesar, and Caesar went on the run and convinced everyone to get Sulla to let him keep his name and titles. And that was the beginning of his legend. Sulla, of course, demanded that he go serve in the army. Caesar did, won the Laurel Crown, which is the equivalent of a Congressional Medal of Honor, by rescuing a general who'd been surrounded by the enemy at 18. Then he went to Rhodes to become a Rhodes Scholar, and on his way back murdered those pirates. The pirates took him hostage, and he convinced them to ask for they were going to ask for 20 talents of gold. He convinced them to ask for 100. Then when they got the cash, he went back to shore, hired a gang of mercenaries and told them there's 100 talents of gold out on this ship. All we have to do is go kill some pirates for it. They went out there and did that. So he had established his name by then, came back to Rome and proceeded to sleep with everyone's wife. So he was a bit of a charmer. And that was when he and Pompey and Crassus, or Cassius, one of those two. Crassus was another one who joined the plot against him. They formed the first triumvirate. The richest man in Rome, the toughest general, and the most beloved. They formed the first trust. But Victor is telling the story about the trust that wanted to take over the new world. 13 families who all joined together and signed a document that they would do whatever it took to defend themselves, even from themselves, but especially from kings, from Queen Elizabeth, King Ferdinand and Isabella, whoever else. I don't remember who the French king was in 1492 or the 1450s. And England had been to the New World a few times, but it was when they set up Roanoke that things were really going to stick. They sent 109 people, but specifically they sent women and children. And this meant that the colony was going to stay. So these guys, this is Victor explaining all this. So now, okay, so there's another thing happening. In this bar where they're talking about conspiracy stories, they have a bunch of diamonds that they just ripped off from a diamond exchange. They're waiting for this guy, Harley, who is their fence. He finally shows up, and he is furious because his brother didn't make it out of the robbery. Bass, Victor, and Sheila try explaining to Harley why they had to leave Perry behind. Perry was wounded, and they said he would have left him too, but he's not having it. He's furious. He tells everyone to get out of the bar, that there's free drinks at a bar down the street, everyone to clean the fuck out. So they leave because you're not going to tell that guy no. And he is pissed. He says, we're going back for my brother. They're like, we can't go back for your brother. It's impossible. He explains that they have 1 hour to wait. And if it doesn't get sorted out by then, we'll see what happens. Essentially, what's going to happen, none of these people realize it, but he's going to murder all of them if his brother doesn't show up. You just one look at this guy and you know that's what's going to happen. He doesn't value any of these people as much as he values his brother, and his brother's not there. So they're waiting, and Victor continues his story about the trust and the 13 families. Queen Elizabeth was not having it. She wanted to put her foot down, but the 13 families set up the Minutemen, a group of assassins meant to protect them from everyone, including themselves. I know I'm going through this pretty fast, but really, you guys should be reading it. I don't know why I'm doing this sometimes. Onimusha, I remember this game. Also, this is 2004. We're knee deep into this. Started in 99, 50 books in. I think it was December of 99. So the phone rings, and it's Perry. Perry is across the street, wounded, but he's been followed. Bass is running his mouth and is gonna wind up dead if he's not careful. Victor's got an interesting tattoo on this hand. He's got an interesting tattoo on his other hand too. I should go back and look for it because I saw it earlier, or later. I saw it later in the book. Let's see if it's here. Some tattoo on this hand as well. I don't know. What the fuck does it matter? So anyhow, Harley is not having Bass's shit. Sheila says, "You let go of my dick." And Perry, Harley's brother, is across the street, gut shot. But he's been followed. So the people that they ripped off at whatever diamond exchange followed him to the drop. Victor comes up with this idea to tell him to die. That if you tell him to play dead, that whoever is following him will most likely back off. They're not going to want to deal with a dead body. They don't know where he's going yet. So that's a pretty clever idea, right? It's kind of clever. But there's one big gap in that idea. And that is that if you play dead, you really have to play dead. So here's, we cut back to the story. Queen Elizabeth ain't having it. She's not dealing with the trust. She sends the people out to Roanoke. And the trust sends their 7 assassins out to Roanoke to murder everyone. The art is so good. Really, guys, apologies for flipping through this so fast today. I mean, look at the time. And reading it, you know, absorbing the story doesn't require absorbing the art. But it's good art. This ship in the distance. So, Perry plays dead. They watch from across the street. One of the guys goes out to check on him. And that's when Harley loses his shit. Now, not only does Harley lose it, but Perry isn't dead either. And of course, the gunfire erupts and everyone gets hit. Perry gets shot again. The bad guy gets shot. All hell breaks loose, as they say. Sheila runs out. She gets shot at. Bass runs out. Vic runs out. Now Vic is the man. Vic is a Minuteman. Not just the man, a Minuteman. So Stone Cold Killers, this is back on Roanoke where they murder everyone. I think they found out recently that group got absorbed into another group. No one ever did figure out what Croatoa meant. But in this one, apparently those are the initials of the 7 assassins, or something like that. That word is the code word that tells everyone that they did it, that the trust did it. So here's Vic, Deadeye Vic, like Bullseye, much like these guys, the first Minutemen, and he is able to, on his own, take everyone else out. Now, I didn't see where Bass got shot. It looked like he was hiding behind Sheila in the bar. So, I don't know at what point his fat dumb ass ran out and got shot. Sheila got shot, and Vic uses her as a human shield. Good for him. That's clever. That's the way to do it. Eventually, she falls down. Excuse me. And, yeah, this car goes right over his head. It'd be a great moment in a movie. And it's interesting that Eduardo Risso didn't make that half-page panel. It's unnecessary. You've got everything you need right there. Everyone's dead. There's Bass. So he finally did run out after all the shooting was over. And Vic is still telling his story about 13 families. And 7 men, 119 dead. This belongs to us. And they left the one word scratched into a tree. Point is, that's what this country has always been about. Then he mentions that Graves came to see him a little while ago, said a word that reminded him of who he was, and woke him up. He said he had to go see a girl, which I'm presuming was Dizzy Cordova. So Vic's been awake for a little bit. I don't know that I think there's more than 7 members of the Minutemen at this point, unless you count Graves and Shepard. You've got Cole, Wiley, Jack, Milo, who's dead, Lono, who's insane, this guy Vic. No, that's not 7 yet. Dizzy, who's new. How does the story end? Like any good one, in tears. Right in front of me. Croatoa. So 7 guys, possibly 7 initials. Maybe a code word. But yeah, how does this story end? Like any good one, in tears. And that is 100 Bullets 50. The story of Roanoke and the beginning of the Trust, the 13 families who are now considered to be the Illuminati. Although the Illuminati started long before America. Friday the 13th was in the 1300s, I believe. So I saved this for the end. This is a good one. This one says a bunch of, I'm just going to summarize for you guys. This one says that you've got a barricade set up outside your compound, and some homeless wanderers show up asking for food and water. They're given very little and asked to leave. A few of them make it clear that they will be coming back. What do? Well, if you're going to follow the 100 Bullets example, you do like Negan and make an example of 1 or 2 of them, the toughest ones they've got. Although I wouldn't do it with a baseball bat, I would just do it with a bullet. The most important thing in the future is there's going to be 2 things important. 1, bullet farms. So knowing how to reload bullets, how to crimp bullets, how to do, old school flintlock loading of weapons. That'd be something. But yeah, being good. There's that Conan saying that sooner or later you'll long for a good man with a sword, or a man who's good with a sword. When you run out of bullets, like, look, the internet is just, because of this Kamalo Anthony situation, the internet is just flooded with race war shit right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We live in interesting times. Don't you wish it was the 80s again? Don't you wish? See you guys tomorrow.